And joining me now is John Bolton, former ambassador to the UN and national security advisor during Trump's first term. Thank you so much for being here on this all-important Easter Sunday with what we have just witnessed with this rescued Air Force member. Some good news to report. I want to first start, John, with your reaction to that.
Well, it's obviously great news showing our capabilities, even in the most extreme circumstances. This was a case of boots on the ground inside Iran and pulled off in a thoroughly professional fashion. So we should certainly be happy about that. But let's be clear, if the war continues, we're going to face other circumstances like this. And while we treasure, obviously, every service member's life, the Iranians are going to try and make whatever they can. They've already declared victory here. You know, they say that this is a deception, that the crew member is still not there. That's obviously to propagandize their own people. But this is the kind of regime we're dealing with.
You know, in your New York Times opinion piece that we've looked through, you talk about how Trump can still win in Iran at this point. You say it's about the leveraging of the momentum of our military to take control of the Strait of Hormuz and destroying the Islamic Revolutionary Guard. So, you know, as we break that down, what would you advise President Trump to change today? You've been at the table before. What would you say right now?
Well, the military is already taking a lot of steps to be able to open the Strait of Hormuz and to make it safe throughout the Gulf as a whole for commercial traffic, tankers in particular. We need to accelerate that. We need to tell the Chinese that they're not getting another barrel of oil out of the Gulf. We're going to blockade the Strait of Hormuz to make sure no more Iranian oil gets out until oil from our friends, the Gulf Arabs, can get out. And we're going to continue to go after leadership figures and the Revolutionary Guard itself. I think the regime is beginning to fracture. And let's be clear, the conduct we've seen from the regime to date demonstrates why the only path to peace and security on a lasting basis is to get rid of the regime itself.
Right. And as we take a look at it, where we stand today, can the U.S. achieve true victory without deploying troops on the ground? That seems to be the #1 question and the one thing that we keep waiting for to see if that is going to happen.
Yeah, look, I think we should be doing a lot more to help the opponents of the regime inside Iran, whether they're Kurds or Baluchis or Persians themselves who have risen in the streets, were murdered by the tens of thousands by the regime in January. This is the time to begin to act, though. It doesn't necessarily mean going into the streets, but it does mean trying to pull the regime apart. And again, look at the fortifications the regime has dug on the islands in the Strait of Hormuz, underground on the mainland to store drones. All of that still remains to be dealt with. But just think about what would happen if this regime survived and, on top of all that, had nuclear weapons. Their conduct to date proves why it's unacceptable for them to have nuclear weapons and why the ultimate end here has to be to eliminate the regime. That's the only way to peace and security.
Yeah, let's talk about timeline here, because tomorrow is the deadline that Trump set for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And Ukraine's Zelensky telling NewsNation's Robert Sherman that one country alone cannot secure the strait. Let's take a listen to that together.
I don't see for today possibilities how to unblock it by one country or another. It's only joint steps, to my mind.
Okay, so what happens if Iran doesn't meet this deadline? What are we looking at?
Well, the president has threatened to go after their energy infrastructure and logistical capabilities. And I have to say, some people complain about that, saying those are civilian targets. I don't think so. The Iranians have built much of their military machine underground, just like Hamas did in Gaza, just like North Korea has done with their nuclear program, to try and hide it, protect it from strikes, primarily the U.S. and Israel. But much of their support for that military program is above ground, and to destroy the military capabilities, particularly the Revolutionary Guard, their ballistic missile and drone capabilities, and their nuclear program, we'll have to do what we have to do. This is another signal, though, to people in the regime that ship is sinking. And if they don't want to get down with it, this is the time to talk to the opposition and figure out how to bring the regime down.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.